Hi, 39 female recently got divorced. It was my fault. I had a one-night stand with a colleague and he fell in love, and when I didn't want to follow him, he sent evidence of our love to my then husband, John, 45 male. I know I was wrong for cheating, that's not my question. All things considered, the divorce proceedings were relatively amicable. I wanted to stay in our home where I raised our son, David, nearly adult male, and we found a way to make that possible. Soon after the divorce, my father, 76, was diagnosed with cancer. He always wanted to go on a cruise with the whole family and is planning the big voyage for the next holidays, treatments permitting. But that time was meant to be time for John to see David, so I need John's okay. I brought it up with him and he understood that my father's diagnosis changed things, but he didn't agree immediately. He wanted to talk to David first. That talk hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, school tuition comes due. We send David to an expensive private school. John has an impressive income and is happy to pay for David's education. But prior to our divorce, we were helping my sister Susan, 43, who's not as wealthy, by paying to send her two boys, teen and young teen, to the same school. Susan gets the bill and sends it to John. He laughed and responded that since they weren't family anymore, it wasn't his problem. Susan thinks it isn't fair for her children to have to switch schools, since they've both already been going there, have friends there, and would have to go to a lesser quality school. Susan and her family have been relying on him, and it's cruel of John to cut them off. My parents think this is my responsibility because the divorce was my fault. They suggest I sell the house and come and live with them. They have even found someone who would buy it, my cousin. I don't want to do this, primarily because of my parents smoking, but also it's not as straightforward as they make it sound. In the divorce, we set up the deed to transfer the property to David after I die. John wanted to ensure that if I were to remarry, it wouldn't end up with my hypothetical stepchildren. John thinks it's nothing to do with him anymore, and if there's money for a cruise, then it's time for the rest of the family to step up and get them through this transition. In any case, though, I don't really want to push back on him because he hasn't technically agreed to let David go on the holiday, and I want to make sure my father's possible last wish is good. I feel guilty about the situation. I don't see a happy way of getting the money together. But I also agree that it is unfair that my nephews will likely have to move schools due to no fault of their own. I wish I could help, but I'm not the wealthy auntie I was a year ago. I'm by no means living in poverty, but I don't have that kind of spare money either. So, am I the idiot for not selling the house to pay for my nephew's tuition? You can just give up your home so my kids can go to one school over another. LOL, there's a cousin who can afford to buy the house, the entire family is going on a cruise, but the man who was cheated on and isn't actually family and the newly single mother with a teen are the ones who should pony up. Tell Sister Dear to get a second job, and if the rest of the family is this concerned, then everyone can chip in, including you, since you feel bad about it. It would be frankly disgusting to insist that your ex pays for your sister's kids. Agree. Why can't your parents sell their house, move in with you and use the money for your nephews then? You are not the idiot for the question you asked. We're not here to judge your cheating, but you know who is an idiot? Your family. John is no longer paying the tuition, and I can't blame him. The rest of your family should step up and help if they still want these two kids to attend that school. No, you don't have to sell your house to your cousin and go live with your parents so you can pay for the kids' school. What the heck? And your ex-husband is right. Your nephew's tuition bills aren't his problem anymore, as he's no longer part of your family. It seems clear that they just saw him as a bank account. But damn, if you didn't start a cascade of crap with your little fling. Honestly, OP, I have a hard time believing that your nearly adult son can't put his foot down and insist to your ex, his dad, that he will be going on the family cruise with his dying grandpa, even if it is his dad's custody time, if he wanted to. I have no idea what his relationship with you currently is. Your husband waffling on the kid going on the cruise, maybe your husband's offering to take the heat for your kid not wanting to go. My dad is pretty rich and is retired at 50. He's been dating this woman Laura for a couple of years, and it worried me that she was just after his money. She's 35. My dad said he'd never marry or have any more kids, besides me, 24 male, because he wanted to leave everything to me. Last year, Dad texted me and said he had some good news about him and Laura. I thought they were going to get married, and I was going to tell him to get a prenuptial to make sure our family money stays in the family. No, he and Laura were going to have a baby. I told my dad he was gross for having a kid at 50, and now he's on the hook financially. He said he was thrilled to become a dad again. I told Laura she was disgusting for tricking my dad into becoming a dad, and she's not getting any of his money when he dies. My dad has like $5 million in life insurance policies. She said she was insulted by what I said, and I said I call out gold diggers when I see them. Of course, ever since my brother was born, she kept asking him to change his will. I told my dad that she should get a job and not try to live off him. Am I the idiot for telling my dad's girlfriend that she's a gold digger? You are the idiot. To make sure our family money stays in the family. It's not our money, it's his money. Not even going to bother with the obvious, which is that your sibling, the baby, is family, as is his mother. If you're calling out gold diggers, did you first look in the mirror? That's exactly what you sound like. Dude, your father is 50, not elderly, and Laura didn't get pregnant by herself. Your sense of entitlement is nothing short of disgusting. Your father can handle his own affairs without your help. You're just jealous that you won't get the whole enchilada once he dies. Absolutely sad. Time to start making your own way through life and plan on providing for yourself versus counting the money in Daddy's estate. I'm not trying to change his will, she is. Are you for real? He has 2 children now, he should change his will. You can't be happy for your dad and you're only thinking about how much money you're getting once he dies. How much have you contributed to our family money? You do realize your father isn't dead yet, right? Dude, it's your dad's money. He can do whatever he wants to do with it. Maybe he will spend every last dime on people who actually care about him and not just his money. I have 2 children, 33 female and 40 male. They do not get along and haven't spoken in several years. Not getting into it, but a lot of it has to do with my daughter-in-law, son's wife. My husband passed away a few years ago. I sold the big house and decided to purchase a townhouse in the same gated community as my daughter. I like having her and her husband close by so I know I'm not alone. The gated community comes with a beautiful pool that my daughter and her husband use all the time. The problem started last weekend when my son asked to bring his wife and kids to the pool for the day on Saturday. I said of course. I called my daughter and informed her that my son and family would be at the pool. She was upset and said she and her husband intended to use the pool all weekend and can we please tell her son no. I told her that was ridiculous. If she wanted to use the pool, she could just ignore them. She threw a fit, saying because of the pool house they could only use it on the weekends. She'd been looking forward to swimming all week. She also claimed this was her home and I was taking away her safe space by having him here. She says she pays a lot to live here and now can't use the amenities. I reminded her I pay the same amount to live here as she does, and I want my grandbabies to enjoy the pool. She ended the call by saying she was here first and I just had to follow her, which hurt. I took my son and his family to the pool on Saturday. My daughter never showed up. I haven't heard from her all week and my son again asked to bring his family to the pool this weekend and I agreed. I sent her a text letting her know again and she sent me one back telling me not to worry. She won't be going to the pool anymore this season. I think she's being a complete brat. This is my home too. I pay just as much to live here. I should be able to use the amenities as I please. Edit. My daughter turned down being a bridesmaid and everything escalated from there. It ended with my daughter-in-law, as my daughter claims, trying to kick my daughter out of the family. Daughter-in-law said many untrue things to other family members about her. A lot of the family doesn't talk to my son and daughter-in-law, so obviously, if those were daughter-in-law's intentions, they didn't work. So my daughter needs to get over it. You are the idiot, completely. You move there to be close to your daughter but allow her bully to come over as they please? Mom of the year right there. I don't care if they're adults and you think your daughter should get over it. The fact that other members of your family don't talk to your son and his family should be evidence enough of who's in the wrong. Why don't you move closer to your favourite child? OP, the key information is that you both pay to live there and use the amenities when your son and his family do not. Truthfully, I don't like outsiders even coming in because they crowd the space that renters pay for. If he wants a pool, there are plenty of public pools around. You meet him at one of those. If someone is uncomfortable in their own space, you should respect that and not allow him the ability to change that. She has every right to be angry with you. Also, she lived there first and created a home out of it, and you came in and stole that away from her. Tell your darling son, who also failed to rein in his wife's vicious behavior, that you can't continue giving them weekends. He doesn't pay for any of the amenities and is certainly not entitled to them. Then, apologize to your daughter for not handling this situation correctly. Otherwise, move closer to your son and completely abandon your daughter. I'll bet your son and his wife are not the ones you can count on to consider your needs. I'm a 26-year-old female and my boyfriend is 28. We've been together for 1 year now. He has a high-paying job and so do I. He purchased a house against a loan 2 years ago before we met, so he must pay off his mortgage. I live in a rented apartment alone, so finances are not an issue. The next step for us is to move in. His house is nicer and in the central part of the city, and my lease ends in December this year. We've been having arguments regarding some financial decisions. He wants me to pay rent, half his mortgage, to move into his house. He reasons that it's no different than paying rent to a landlord for having a roof over my head. I countered him and told him something like this. First, you're using the term rent to disguise the fact you want me to pay towards your mortgage, extorting me. You build assets and gains from this deal by having only yourself on the deed and not me when I pay the exact amount as you through rent. Considering we date for the long term, he and I don't want marriage, I gain nothing from investing in this property if we break up. I was really fiery when I told him that this wasn't a fair trade because we're supposed to be partners, and I made it very clear I would not pay rent unless I'm at least part owner of the house somehow. When he countered again with his subterfuge logic about the landlord-tenant relationship, I said, if we were both to rent a place together and pay rent to a landlord, that would be different because it's not like one of us is getting a name on the deed and gaining any benefits. So it's fair and equitable. This isn't me being greedy. This is me honoring my principles and ensuring I'm not financially taken advantage of. I'm open to paying rent as long as we both stand as equals. His face was red by now and he called me a stuck-up witch. I called him greedy and left. Am I the idiot? It seems like the problem has been resolved, thankfully. Everyone's the idiot. Why? He's an idiot for thinking that his mortgage should have any bearing on how much rent you pay. It should be set according to market value instead, and I suspect you'd actually pay more. You're greedy for thinking you're entitled to half the equity in his house just because you pay rent. You're actually entitled to, checks notes, nothing. Calling rent extortion is just being an entitled idiot. Disagree. You are the idiot. This is way too big an ask and expectation of him so early into a relationship. He's taking all the risk here. If you were living together and you contributed for a few years, then yes, your request would be different. But not a year into a relationship and you've never lived together. The way you're speaking about this and the language used is a massive red flag to me. OP, I've been in this situation before and I completely understand your points. You are not the idiot. Do not move in with him and subsidize his investment. Just stay living apart unless he can devise a way that you both can profit from the arrangement. Make no mistake, he will be profiting from it. A house is a good investment because you're almost guaranteed to get more out than you put into it. So he will actually be getting more than what you put in if and when he sells the place. If he complains about buying a home together because he wants to be the only one to gain, then just get a better boyfriend. I, 24 female, have been with my boyfriend Jack, 25, for 2 years. We've been living together for just over a year. I've always been fond of cooking and usually make a lot of Asian dishes as I grew up eating a lot of them. So, as a result, I do use soy sauce and sometimes some MSG. However, when I got together with my boyfriend, he mentioned how he's very allergic to soy, so I had to be extra careful about what I make. He also mentioned how his parents dismissed his allergy and we had a long discussion about his allergies. I take allergies seriously due to an incident with a family member a few years ago, so when we moved in together I purchased an entire new cooking set to ensure there was no cross-contamination. Last week we went to see his family as they invited us over to their place. I've met them before and we had lunch together at a local restaurant. However, we have yet to visit them due to how far they live. During this visit, Jack went to pick up his brother from a gig. Our car is a 2-seater, so I was there with his mother, Annie, while she was making a barbecue. At some point, I saw her adding a lot of soy sauce to the marinade for all the meat and said she couldn't do that as Jack is allergic to soy sauce, meaning he won't be able to eat it. Annie said not to worry and that Jack loved this marinade and she'd already made the first bunch. I reminded her again that Jack couldn't eat it as it wasn't safe for him. In short, we ended up arguing until Jack returned. When Jack returned, he was confused about why I'm arguing with his mother and ate one of the glazed wings in the marinade. I was shocked and tried to tell him they had soy and he said don't worry, they're tasty and he's fine. I've asked about the allergies and he said he didn't have any. and just doesn't always like it in his food, as sometimes food tastes very salty with it. Now his entire family calls me a controlling idiot and demands a proper apology to Annie for insulting her cooking. I've apologised and said this happened due to what Jack said, but they're not having any of it. I hate people who lie and say they're allergic when they really just don't like something. It makes it so difficult for people with real allergies to be taken seriously. You're not the idiot, but I would dump this guy. Just say you don't like soy sauce too much, man. But then saying his family doesn't take his allergies seriously? That's manipulative and borderline sociopathic. Yeah, he doesn't just lie about his allergies, he does it in front of his family to try to make her look bad. That is disrespectful, hateful, and literal gaslighting. He doesn't respect you at all, OP, and he's shown that very clearly here. I'm sorry he put you through this, and it's best to cut your losses and dump him. Worse than that, he tricked her into cooking Asian food without soy. What your boyfriend has done to you is terrible. It costs you significant stress plus a whole new cooking set. He fully lied to you, manipulated you, and for what? To have your meals seasoned according to his preferences? How controlling does a person have to be to do that to a life partner? The discussion should not be what you said to his mother, it should be whether you should stay in this relationship.